Hello there. My name is Angela Ward and I'm a mindset and resilience coach. I'm also a Reiki master and a holistic therapist, practitioner and trainer. And today I want to talk to you about the concept of being true to yourself is your only priority and the rest will follow. And in order for me to do that, I want to share this presentation with you. Because I think it's really important that I go through it in a little bit more detail so that I can, really get you to understand the concept of this. So I'm going to start by, well, what do I mean by all of this, really? Because I'm going to start with the fact that we are conditioned. We are conditioned from our family and our peers, and we're also conditioned by the education system. And as soon as we are born, we are conditioned. We are told as a toddler, or even as soon as we can communicate, that if we want something, we have to do something to achieve it. And if we don't achieve it, we feel that we're not worthy. We're not worthy to have it. And we end up forming a belief around that. And what you see growing up from the family and your parents determines a lot about who you are and how you live your life today. What you feel about this growing up will also determine a lot about how you live your life today. When you then start hanging around with your peers at school and your friends, they would have also had some kind of conditioning from their family. And this could be very different to yours. And then what happens at that point is you start to learn about new ways of living. And then you start to compare yourself. You compare yourself to others. You start to compare your family to others. You develop judgments on yourself and others. You develop limitations through a conditioned belief system. You also develop a blame strategy and negotiation strategies. And soon enough, you begin to reinforce the fact that your parents have told you that if you want to achieve something, that you have to do something for it. Now, to your peers, that might mean to just take it. Like the bully in the school, for instance, who nicks the lunch money. And that belief can come literally from a conversation or a repetitive conversation where the dad says to the son something along the lines of, "Son, if you want anything in this life, you've just got to take it." And as far as that bully is concerned, he is acting out a value that has been conditioned with. He has been conditioned with that. What also happens is that whatever your family are conditioning you to become came from the conditioning or programming that they received from their parents and their parents and their parents. So then we get to school and education. And of course, the school has its own structure and its own set of programming and conditioning as it attempts to provide a structure to a child, which is a good thing. But on the same token, what it also does is it brings back that concept of if you want to achieve, you must do something in order to be recognised or validated. Reinforcing the comparison to others, the judgment and the limitations. All of this obviously will also depend on where your moral compass is calibrated from. That will determine what you believe to be right or wrong in your life. And as children, we just want to belong. That sense of belonging continues with us through our lives. And to achieve this sense of belonging, you may do things that you wouldn't have naturally done. But you do it because it gives you that sense of belonging. And before long, you've been conditioned to behave in a particular way. And youth gang grooming is based on this need to belong, comparison to others, and judgment of validation in the world. Now, corporate life also has its own set of conditions because it has a structure. Now, once upon a time, you had one job for life. You'd leave school and you'd go to work, and you were conditioned again into a culture. And whilst jobs for life are no longer around, any organisation you work with will have a culture. And this culture is how things are done in the organisation. And you must have heard that saying, it's the way we do things around here. That is the culture. The corporate world teaches you to do things, but it doesn't teach you who you are. It conditions you into a way of thinking and a way of doing. Now, this culture is developed by people who, again, have been conditioned by their family. And if they are at the top of their tree, they would have been conditioned to behave in a way that reinforces the fact that in order to get something from the people around you, you have to behave in a particular way. And all of these add complexities and layers, especially in the workplace when you're dealing with so many people. Change can take time, and a lot of corporate organisations do. They do use coercive behaviour, fear and manipulation as a means to get what they want from people. And they're good at it. And sometimes, though, it's so subtle that you actually don't recognise it until it's your turn to take the heat. And this is a skill all on its own. I'm not talking about your general negotiations to sell and to bring people together under one vision. I'm not talking about compassionate leadership here. I'm talking about underhanding tactics that undermine anyone that attempts to challenge. They pull rank because they can, which is basically resorting to the do it or else syndrome. So they're just instilling fear because it's the quickest way to get change. But what happens when you're in a situation like this is that instead of making you thrive, it makes you sick. It makes you demotivated. It makes you afraid to speak up because you fear the repercussions. You lose all sense of creativity and freedom of thought and self-worth. And it's the same in your personal life, where individuals feel the need to control other humans with demeaning comments, coercive and threatening behaviours, and it chips away at you. And when you get to this place, this is when you feel truly stuck, as if you have nowhere to turn. So what does all this mean? So let me visit the term I used earlier of moral compass. What actually is that? So the dictionary states that it is an internalised set of values and objectives that guide a person with regard to ethical behaviour and decision making. And the real key here is the fact that it states internalised set of values. And these are values that would have been developed based on conditioned or learned behaviours. And I mentioned ethical behaviour. So what is ethical behaviour? Well, it's been described as general principles of right conduct that direct the decisions and activities of an individual or an organisation. So what this is basically saying is that whatever conditioning you have received will determine your values. And these values will be the basis of what you see as being ethical and what behaviours you adopt or are adopted by an individual or an organisation. So being true to yourself is your only priorities. These words have become my mantra. And all throughout this presentation, I've been speaking about being conditioned by your family, conditioned by your peers, how the education system conditions you and how the corporate world conditions you. But I want to ask this question. How do you know if you are living your life being true to who you really are? Have you found yourself in a situation where you are literally just people pleasing, or you've become the yes person, regardless of whether you feel it's right or wrong, purely because you fear any repercussions? You hate the fact that you have to go to work, yet you love the idea of work, but you're just stressed out by the environment, and you know in your heart that it all feels wrong for you. That's when you know that you are in a situation where you are not being true to yourself. And when this happens, it is actually a true blessing. And you do have choices. You always have choices. And these choices are this: you stay in a situation where you're stuck, miserable, and sick. Because when it happens that you get to that point where you need to ask yourself that question, it is a blessing. It's a true blessing. And it's an opportunity to actually think about what choices you do want to make. So you can stay in that situation, be stuck, miserable, and sick. You can challenge the behaviours based on your own moral compass and values. And the chances are you'll be fighting a losing battle, because generally no one will stand with you because they fear the repercussions, because you're going to be rocking the boat. And we've all been told, or you've all been told at some point, that you mustn't do that. Or you can just accept that you are calibrated differently to those around you. It doesn't make anyone righteous. It just makes the energy exchange toxic to you, because you're wired differently. There will be others that can thrive in such a situation because they operate from the same moral compass and values as those leading the organisation. So you have to accept that in order for you to thrive, you need to remove yourself from the situation by doing something different. You see, success isn't personal, it's structural. And to be successful, you have to get yourself into the right structure of an alignment of values, moral compass, and ethical behaviours. The big question is, when you feel compromised and vulnerable, the last thing you can do is make a change because you don't feel that you have the strength, the clarity of what's happening or where you want to be, but also the fear of unknown. You've heard the saying, better the devil you know, but that puts you into a mindset that you will just settle for second best. And why should you? And why would you? And why would you put your own welfare secondary to an outside body? There will always be a few reasons why you feel this way, and having the awareness is the first step to help you take that leap of faith, along with the right support. The awareness will be stored in your unconscious mind as a dormant memory, one where you first stored that value or belief as a meaning to you, and you will be required to bring that forth into the conscious so that you can deal with the situation from a place of logic rather than from an emotional attachment. And when you are in such a situation, when you are in such a situation that I've outlined above, what's happening is your unconscious mind is alerting you to the fact that something doesn't sit right, something feels off. And these messages come to you from the unconscious mind in the form of your emotions, and it uses those to give messages to your body to alert you to the fact that something's wrong. And when you continuously ignore the sayings and the signs, staying stuck and trying to make other people change, eventually you become sick as the emotions affect your body. And if you think about stress as an example, when you are constantly stressed, you feel tired. When you are constantly stressed, you feel tired. You feel anxious. You feel frustrated. Your mind is cluttered or foggy, and your energy is heavy and dense. And the unconscious mind is telling you through using your hormones and your emotions that you need to do something to change your stress levels. And if you ignore the signs, eventually your immune system is affected and you become more susceptible to illness. And you may end up with anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue syndrome, or all of those. It's exactly the same process when you are in an environment that is toxic to you. You see, wanting to change isn't the same thing as quitting. Wanting to change isn't the same thing as giving up. Wanting to change isn't the same as failure. Wanting to change, however, is an acknowledgement that you are aware that you require something different to bring you balance and harmony. Making this change requires strength, commitment, and being true to yourself. Because being true to yourself requires honesty. It requires you to take responsibility by relinquishing any judgment, blame, or those comparisons that you make. And I say this literally. You can only be you because everybody else is taken. So being true to yourself is the only it's the only priority, because otherwise you end up staying in this toxic environment, in this stuckness. Now, I am a magnetic mind coach. I call myself mindset and resilience coach, but I use the magnetic mind method. And the core philosophy of that is actually to detach from the current reality that you live so that you can achieve your desired result. I'm one of the first in the world to be certified. And I work with people that want to make significant changes in their life but don't know how to. Those that are stuck, scared to put their head above the parapet, afraid that they don't have what it takes. And these are just some of the testimonials of some of the people that I've worked with. This is Holly, she's an artist, and she's such a beautiful soul. And she had big dreams for her future, but she was stuck, so stuck, because of this thing that she had about not feeling worthy or not deserving, a world that she wanted to live with. And she says here that I helped her to find out what her subconscious things which were holding her back, and she broke free from them. And this is all about the conditioning. It's about your conditioning and your programming that you have to unhinge from your brain, unlearn from your brain, so that you can walk forward and step into you. And the only way you can do this is by being true to yourself. And this is Tracy. We did a few workshops, Tracy and I, and she was something else happened with her, where she was always comparing herself to others, where she felt the need that she constantly had to prove herself. So she constantly was sticking her head above the parapet, but being shut down, constantly up, shut down. And she says here that it's so interesting how you discover the things in your childhood and how they affect you and how you bring them into your adult life. And she wasn't aware of that. And now she is aware of that. She's starting to live her life very differently, being true to herself. And this is Sam. Sam is a spiritual coach. And, everybody needs help sometimes. None of us are, have all of the answers all of the time. There's always going to be someone out there that has a little bit more advanced on a particular part of a journey than you may be, and and you get stuck, and you use all those tools in the box that you've used before, and for some reason they're not working. They don't work because you can't see it. You've got your blinkers on. And that's when you know you need support and you need help to take those blinkers off so that you can widen that awareness. And we went through what we term a recode session, which is all around resistance. It's finding that resistance, finding the resistance to the problem that you have, finding what that really is, finding that belief, that limiting belief that's stopping you from moving forward. And a lot of the time, these things are embedded so deep in the memory that you don't even know they are operating and they are running your life. And that's when you hit a brick wall, you hit that wall. And we did that. And she has shifted fantastic. Her business has grown in an instant with this work, because she can now see what it is she was doing that was preventing herself moving forward. And if you are interested in doing some work, or you want some more training on this, firstly, there's two things you can do here, okay? You can watch the free training video. I'm going to put the link in the comments. You can watch the free training video to get more information on all of this stuff, and really, come to terms with what it is I'm saying to you, really, because being true to yourself is your only priority. And the best investment you'll ever make is on you, because you are your life. You are the creator. You are the creator. So if you're allowing all of these conditioning and all of this limitation to prevent you from having that life, you have to step out of that situation to take back your power. And it's the only way you can take back your power. And in order to do that, you have to be true to yourself. So there's two ways to do this, okay? You can watch the free training. It's only going to be up for a limited period of time, and I'll put it underneath here. Or you can also schedule a call with me if you want to, and jump straight into the program. I am running a group program, which is for 1 year, and I'm also running one-to-one programs. So I'll put all the details up, and it would be lovely to work with you guys. And let's do this. Being true to yourself is your only priority. Tell yourself that daily, every day, every second of the day, until you believe it. Use that to start a new belief system. And believe me, pardon the pun, when you start to do things like that and then put the action in place behind it, that's when miracles really do happen. So I can't wait to work with you, and you take care of yourself. Bye now. Bye-bye.